told my dad, I said, you know what, I'm not going to plow it. I'm going to plant into it. I said, I just don't know how we're going to get rid of the corn stalks. He said, well,
I told him that ain't gonna work. But Mike, he got to reading up and listening to stuff, and he heard about this thing called soil health. And he's telling me about it, and I said, yeah. I said, they've got it. I said, they're going to have a deal over here in Lubbock called No-Till Texas. I said, if you want to go to it, we'll go to it. And I said, I've already tried that conservation tillage twice. I said, first time I had to quit it because tumbleweeds stuck over. We didn't have Roundup back then. And I said, the second time I tried it, I was doing the no-till, rotating with Milo and cotton every other time, and something happened to the Milo, and nobody could figure it out. And when they figured it out, it had fusarium wilt. And I asked them, well, how do I get rid of fusarium wilt? And they said, go back to plowing. Well, me being dumb, that's what I did. I should have tried to figure out a way to get rid of it. What I think had happened, I started putting manure on from the dairies, and I think I got it out of the dairy is what I did. And I should have just did something else for a while until I got rid of it. But anyway, I quit the conservation tillage. But anyway, Mike helped me the rest of the year, and then we went to No-Till Texas.
So I didn't want to farm. You know, growing up as a typical farmer's kid, you don't get the fun stuff to do. So, you know, hoeing cotton in the summers, moving irrigated pipe before and after 2-a-days in August. When I left high school, I had no intention of ever coming back. After college, moved to Austin, followed my wife's career. She's going to pharmacy school. Thought that was a good wagon to hitch to. She had to do her last year in Dallas residency, so we moved to Dallas. And life happened, kid on the way. Had to get a job, found a company to work for. Worked for them for 12 years, lived in Dallas for 12 years. Now farming, I guess, is kind of in your blood, but it was way back in the back and never even thought about it until the first time my brother left. He was always the one that's going to carry on the legacy, the 5th generation. But he left to work for another farmer, and that kind of just, I guess, planted a seed in my head. And then he had came back and didn't think another thing about it until he left to go trucking. And then I guess that seed got watered at that point, and I couldn't quit thinking about it. All the things in Dallas that you tolerate, traffic, people, humidity, you name it, that you tolerated before, you have another option, it kind of starts to piss you off after a while. So anyway, so I did call my dad and asked him what he thought, and he was fine with it. So I came back, helped him that whole year. Well, I was gone 18 years. There's a lot of things that changed. He has tractors with air conditioning, GPS, radio, FM radio, sprinkler pivots you can control on your phone, Roundup ready cotton that you can just spray over the top of. I was like, man, farming got pretty easy. So anyway, I helped him, and I had to learn everything new because I'd been gone so long. Helped him that whole year. The following year, I rented this place here and another place down the highway. One of the things that he had changed that he started doing is he ran this plow called a one-trip plow. So after he cut his stalks, it had an onion blade on the front, a chisel, and a buster that would list your rows all one pass. So we were doing that on this farm, and then the other farm, it was almost a full circle, but he had reduced it down to a half circle, and the rest was in pasture for 5 or 6 years. So I'd asked him, so well, how does that work with the pasture? He said, oh, we just run through it, no problem. Well, the job I'd worked for in Dallas had called, and they really needed help. So I actually went to Dallas for a week and then came back. Well, that week gone, The pasture greened up, we lost our moisture, and it was really too dry to run that plow. But we went ahead and ran it. In the cultivated part that was a crop last year, it ran no problem. Once we got to the pasture ground, man, that tractor, we had to gear down, started snapping plow bolts and onion blades, and it was a hard pull that whole time. Pulling up these big old clods of dry ground. We got to this one spot where there was just hay on the ground. The previous winter, they'd put a bale of hay out during a snowstorm. And I was approaching that spot, and all of a sudden that tractor just lunged forward. And I turned around and looked, and figured I'd see the plow on the ground. Quick hitch broke or something. But what I saw, I could still see in the vision in my head. Instead of those big dry clods coming up, those busters had sheets of mud coming off of them. And that was my aha moment, that if a layer of hay can make the difference of dry ground that you can barely pull a plow through to mud that's too muddy to plow, then what do I have to do to put hay everywhere? So that's what I did. I started researching. It's like, well, how much hay do I have to buy? How do I roll it out? How much is it going to cost? And it really wasn't feasible, but in my research, well, I can grow it. It's called a cover crop. So kind of looked into that more. Well, guys that do cover crops, they also do no-till, because they don't really want to till your cover in. Kind of defeats the purpose. So that year, I had cotton, got held out July 1, replanted the corn, researching a little bit along the ways, and then at the end of that year is when my dad told me about that soil health symposium. We went to it, heard Ray Archuleta, and that just really put me on the path of couldn't learn fast enough. There was another event in Hereford. Gabe Brown spoke at it. And you listen to those two guys, and it's hard not to get excited about it. So if our limiting factor is rainfall, lack of rainfall and lack of irrigation, and we can implement just 2 of those soil health principles of keeping the ground covered and not tilling, then I think it's going to be a game changer for the operation. So that following year, we had corn trash. I told my dad, I said, you know what, I'm not going to plow it. I'm going to plant into it. I said, I just don't know how we're going to get rid of the corn stalks. He said, well,
I told him that ain't going to work.
he did offer. He said I've got a Phillips rotary harrow. It'll whip those corn stalks out no problem. So we ran that right before plant. It fluffed up that corn trash to about this tall over all of it. And he said, well, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to plant into it. He said,
I said, that ain't going to work.
But I did plant into it, and sure enough, it worked. I only stopped up the planter once, I think.
He locked the planter down 1 or 2 times, but this is the amazing part. He got a beautiful stand of cotton, prettiest stand I ever seen. Even though the trash out in the middle was 4 or 5, 6 inches tall. But anyway, he'll tell you the rest of the story now. But I had to quit saying that ain't gonna work.
But we got a timely rain in August, which helped. And then just all that corn trash there and that pre-watering before, whenever we stripped it, what was your best yield before that?
At this time, I'd farmed out 47 years. And 3 times in my life, I'd made 2.99 bale to the acre. But I never could make 3 bale. He made 3.84 first year he ever raised a cotton crop using soil health principles. We had so many modules stacked up on them CRP corners, it looked like a gin yard over there. He become a celebrity overnight. Everybody asking him, well, what did you do? What did you do different? And anyway.
So I thought farming was pretty dang easy. I was like, I don't know what the big fuss is. So after learning everything, I decided, you know what, I'm going to plant a cover crop. So to kind of recap what I do for my cotton program, I won't get into all the weeds of it. A month before I plant, I run that rig right behind you. It's a strip freshener. It really does what a planter does. But I have the ability to put down a biological where the plant's going to be. So in the tank, we do a compost extract. So I have compost bioreactors that I make. We extract the compost for the biology. We put in molasses for a food source. We put in a product called Sea Shield, which is concentrated crab shell and a bunch of good stuff. It stinks. And then we do some fulvic acid. And what we want to do is we want to get that biology steaming. Our soil is made up of minerals. A plant can't take up a mineral. It needs a microbe to break down that mineral and to supply it to that plant. So if you don't have the biology on your land, the only way you can grow anything is by giving it synthetics. But if you can get your biology working and really steaming, then you're going to have everything you need. It's already in the ground. You might need to supplement a few things here and there. So that the idea of that is, let's get that biology stimulated. We call it a primer. And then come plant time, we treat our seed with another biological. We put a little bit of micronutrients. And then we have a liquid that goes in with the seed, and it's all the nutrients we need for fiber initiation. You know, we want to control how many locks per bowl, how many seed per lock, how many fibers per seed. We want it down to that increment. We know what nutrients controls all that and what contributes to that. We want to make sure everything's up front that plant needs. When the plant is about 1 true leaf, 2 true leaves, we come in with the foliar. We don't know exactly what that plant has, but we have the previous year's data of, hey, that plant at that true leaf, it was needing these nutrients, and we'll go ahead and proactively put a foliar down. We do all that, and throughout the year, with the rotation and everything we've contributed, that cotton's happy, it's loaded up. We have a little extra irrigation to really put on that cotton in mid-August. We're going to make a fantastic cotton crop, and we're going to just continue to keep improving the soil as we go. This particular farm, to give you a little history on it, where this pickup is, this turn row used to cut this farm off. So everything from this turn row to the north was the original farm. It's called Kenneth's place. The pivot actually walked onto the other guy's land, but he was fine us watering him every now and then. This has been no-till soil health for 8 years, 8 seasons. This little bit on this side of the turn row that's still under the pivot, we acquired that farm 3 years ago. So that section of the farm's been farmed this way for 3 years. And then this, outside the circle, we're still conventional farming it. But what I like to do is I like to get a shovelful from the 8 years, the 3 years, and the 0, and let y'all kind of compare the soil and see the differences.
Let me share something with y'all. The day before your meeting started, I met Brenda May out here and Gunner May, and they brought those 5 plates that had the soil in them, and those 5 samples of soil came from right here. The one that had the most trash in it, it came right out here just a few feet from where y'all are standing. The one that had less trash was right across this turn row that's underneath this circle. The conventional one that just was nearly plain dirt, it was just a little bit further up the road there where the listed beds are. The one that had wheat growing in it was the one back behind you where the wheat is. And then the one that was pasture ground is just right here to my left out here where this equipment's parked. That's where those 5 samples came from. And if you'll envision in your mind what those 5 deals did under that rainfall simulator, and then you can sit here and look at this condition that we got them from, it'll bring that a little bit closer to a reality for you.